a Kohen that killed, is he puzzle for duchening? So the Gemara in Birchas and other places quotes the pasuk from Navi that a Kohen shaharag, we said is a problem with duchening. So then we discussed the question of what about an IDF soldier, someone fighting a war, or it's a case where you're involved in some other. It's not just a case of murder here. So we discussed. We had Ramos's tshuva. He discussed the issue of if it's considered under duress or not. In other words, that because Ramosha quotes from a Pri Chadash or a Pri Magadan, one of the two, that let's say in the case of the big three, we know for the three things you have to give up your life for. Some of it's a gunshot and says either in the murder this person or kill you. So obviously there's a mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. One should not murder the person. What happens if you do? So you're an honest. So therefore Ramosha quotes from the Pri Magadan that since that person killed the honest, so therefore if it was a Kohen, he's still permitted to duchen. So therefore Ramosha, so too, someone fighting a war in the army, it's even better than honest, but if you're an honest, you have to kill people, you have to protect the land of Israel, or whatever you're fighting for, and therefore Ramosha is Mako. He says someone a Kohen that kills during war, there's no problem, continue duchening.
Who's he quoting, you said?
It's the Pri Chadash or the Pri Magadan, I have to check. And then the
Pri Chadash, he specifically.
I think it's the Pri Chadash, but you what?
He says he gives the.
He gets the Pri Chadash gives the example of someone a Kohen who kills. In the case of the big threes, he's mavata the mitzvah aseh of Kiddush Hashem, and so Ramosha it's a pshita, and he says we paskin that way. Ramosha agrees with the. So he says how much more so in this case? It's certainly.
Because that's the thing if you violate it, you're over Kiddush Hashem, you're not over Ritzitha.
Right. That's right. That's the Kiddush. So certainly in the case.
It's hard to find that there's a kuna.
Right.
Okay.
And then the Sitz Eliezer, he focused on a different issue. He raised the issue of maybe killing a Nachri is different. That first he goes in to say that of course killing a Nachri perhaps even a worse Aveira. It's a Chil Hashem, etc. And he considers it Ritzicha, but the reason that Sitz Eliezer says it's not a...
Considers it Ritzicha. It's not, it's not. You don't...
What, it's not Ritzicha?
It's considered a murder. Okay, you don't mean Ritzicha, the Isser with Misa. Okay.
Right, so...
But he's over Ritzicha, just doesn't get Misa.
Right, you don't get right. There's a difference let's say... We'll see, or killing,
That's the basic law.
no, let's say you're killing a Gavra Ketela, let's say you kill Nigmar Hardin, someone's already, so you're over in Isser Ritzicha, you're just not going to get, there's a Petur Onshin, so it might be, so...
That's not what, for Goy?
No, I'm saying for...
for Goy, that's not the case. That's not
for a Gavra Ketela, yeah.
Yeah, for Goy, it's just a lav at worst, right?
Yeah, in terms...
The question, what are you asking with the love of the non-Jew? What's the love of killing a non-Jew?
What's it called? I don't know. What is it called? Is it called Ritzicha?
So it's an interesting.
Sitz Eliezer, right? He seems whether he's writing in the tshuva that he considers it is, but he doesn't write he doesn't give. He says he thinks it is, but he says the reason why he's lenient on a Kohen Shaharag Nachri is not because he thinks killing Nachri isn't so bad. It's because based on the principle in the Gemara that you learn a lot from the halacha from where it's deduced from. So since the pasuk where we learn out the Isser is talking about killing a Jew, so that's why he thinks you have room to be makel. Not that if you kill the guy, it's not a problem of one pasu you for duchening. Rov Achronim disagree with this. They don't make a distinction. There's no difference. Guy, guy a Jew. That seems to be the consensus among the Achronim. If this type of ritzicha would pass you for duchen, they assume it would apply equally to a non-Jew as well. Many in the Mishnah, many Achronim, right?
I just wondered, did you ever see anyone speak about a person who committed an abortion?
Actually, I'm gonna get to that.
That's also machlokes.
I know that's why I'm bringing. That's why I'm bringing. That's sort of an interesting discussion on it, which we'll tie into. I'll get to that in a minute. So we're actually, case where the Kohen doctor. So we'll get to that in a minute. And the third, so that's the situation. So Rabbi Yosef, he takes a totally different angle. He goes with the mitzvah angle. In other words, we paskin in Shulchan Aruch, a Kohen who is a mohel, and he kills the baby, the shogeg we're assuming, so he's still mutter to do ducheting. Again, I might not use him as a mohel, but he's still, the Shulchan Aruch says he's kosher for ducheting. So Rabbi Yosef says, so too here, when IDF, whoever you're fighting a milchama, a defensive war, you're involved in a mitzvah. So you're involved in a mitzvah, so therefore you can still do it. So others say maybe you can make a distinction. Why? Because really there are a couple reasons why a Kohen who kills a child during Milah, number one, he's involved in the mitzvah. Secondly, they discuss that maybe there could have been other factors why the baby died, because the 8 days, there are other factors that might have contributed. And also, they point out that, it's a suffix nefel, that until the child lives 30 days, he's not considered a viable nefesh. And maybe that's why the Shulchan Aruch is mekel, but perhaps in a case where a war, you only have one. So Rabbi Yosef says that many, and most assume even more, is enough of a mitzvah, and therefore that seems to be the practice. The Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, they quote, sort of quoted, he said that's the minig in Gush and the minig in other places where a Kohen Shahara, they come in, and he also just brings in, he throws in a psychological reason as well, in terms of morale. You're going ahead, you're killing the terrorists, and now it's hard enough, and then you come back, by the way, you puzzle for, so besides, he just throws in a psychological element, but most of our poskim seem to be makel, except interesting Rav Soloveitchik.
It's always by nature. It's the whole halacha is tough psychologically.
No, exactly.
That shouldn't.
No, but he throws in the whole. No, but again, that's not. He's passing based on the halacha, but he's throwing in, and also more like how would it be if we didn't? But he's not saying that. He's not saying that's the reason. He's just throwing it in. I guess he's saying, look, it fits in well. But Rav Soloveitchik has said, Rav Shechter quotes in the name of Rav Shechter. Rav Shechter was the name of the Rav, and Nefesh HaRav, I think he quotes it, that he heard that the Rav Shita was that a Kohen who kills in the war is puzzle for ducheting. They asked that to Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, and he said, I never heard the Rav say that, so I'm not sure what that means exactly. Did he hear everything the Rav said, or did he mean to say he doesn't think the Rav said it, or he actually didn't hear it? I'm not sure. But either way, he didn't hear what the Rav say it. But Rav Shechter apparently heard it because he put it in the Sefer, or he heard it from someone else. So at least either he heard it himself directly, or someone he thinks credible told him, or else he wouldn't have put it in. So the Rav is machmir. He seems to be. He doesn't seem to be working with the onus. That he doesn't go that. He doesn't seem to be working that person's an onus. And the mitzvah, he's learning the Shulchan Aruch. You need all three reasons by Bris Milah to be mekel. And he seems to be working with the Zohar by Pinchas, that Pinchas was a Kohen, and because of what he did, he became puzzle for the avodah, for ducheting, and the special Brisi Kunas Olam, that gave him the fact that he was able to go back and do it. But if not for that, he would have been puzzle. So and apparently the Rav quotes by, you must hold with David HaMelech, as we know David HaMelech wasn't able to build the Beis HaMikdash because his hands were full of blood. So even though he's doing his Var Mitzvah, nevertheless, the Rav points out that we see it was enough for him. Again, it depends which pshat you take why he couldn't build the Beis HaMikdash. If you're assuming because of the wars he couldn't, or as others say, if David built it, then it would never be able to be destroyed. then it might have been us on Tisha B'Av and not the Beis Hamikdash. So either way, it seems to be the consensus view is that we'll make all in terms of a Kohen Shaharag. The Rav seems to be a minority view in terms of, and even Rav Sternbach points out, he remembers even like it was World War I, World War II, when unfortunately you had a terrible situation besides what was going on, but you had Jews drafted from different sides of the army, and you had Jews killing another Jew. So he says even in that case, he's never heard of anyone say that a Kohen who killed someone during the war, you can't do Birchas Kohanim. That seems to be the minute. But I just saw recently, I saw a Shaila, what about a Kohen, I guess whether he's a doctor or not a doctor, but he kills the feet, Actually, the Magen Avraham is actually talking about is that pushing over, I'm not sure if it was intense, knocking over a pregnant woman and you cause it, but, I know he wasn't necessarily talking about a doctor, but, I guess depending why the doctor's doing the abortion, then maybe you could say it's a mitzvah. If he was, the fetus was going to kill the mother. But that's the case the Magen Avraham, he quotes, I think, from the Rabbi, he quotes from other Achronim, that a Kohen who, let's say, knocks over a pregnant woman and kills the fetus, is he permitted to do it or not? So the Magen Avraham, he writes, yes, that one who kills a fetus is not pasul for duchening, and they quote Rashi in Sanhedrin, that it's not a full nefesh until the baby the head sticks out. That's why it was one of the famous tshuvas it was during Nazi Germany, but I'm sure, unfortunately, during many times, where the case was where I guess a Nazi got a Jewish woman pregnant. I guess he couldn't. I guess he'd get in trouble if they found out he was one of the Nazi soldiers. Maybe he were going to live with the Jews, whatever the case might have been. And he had to make sure that either he thought she might be pregnant, I guess they found out she was, and he went to a Jewish doctor and basically put a gun to his head and said, you commit the abortion or I'm going to kill you. So the Achronim writes that he should do the abortion because we know one of the reasons, because murder is, they quote the Svara, that who says your dam is redder than his. So that's when you're comparing two equals. That's why the Minchas Chinuch raises the issue, maybe 1 versus 1,000, maybe is what they're talking about. Whether Almighty says what to do, but if if it's a tray for something else. So here the
baby turns out to be a rode.
Right. That's a bit, yeah.
Right? This baby's not a rode. The pregnant? Sure. Because he's telling exactly. He said, I will kill you. Right? If you don't kill it, that doesn't make the baby a rode. Think about it. Maybe it is. Stretch.
But either way, I'm saying, right. Either way, the halach is you have to do, so he's permitted and perhaps even a mitzvah to do the abortion because you're saving a life and you're only killing the fetus. So basically the Magen Avraham, he's Mako. I guess it gets into the question. There's a famous Maisa with Shlomo Zalman Auerbach when someone, I guess, called him up or spoke to him and said, I think it was a doctor, maybe this is terrible child. I think it might have been Tay-Sachs or some other thing, and this woman can't deal with it. I want to know. I need a heter for an abortion. So he said, no, right away, I don't give any heter on abortion. He says no. He says no. Please, at least think about it. Don't have to answer me. Please, think about it overnight. Says, okay, I'll think about it. I'll tell you the answer right now. If you wanted me to think about it, I'll just tell you no tomorrow. Okay, so he thought it. So he came back. He says, I thought about it. You know what? This rabbi who also lives in Yerushalayim. His name is Eliezer Waldenberg. Maybe you should speak to him. I know I personally disagree, but so it shows them one. So it's interesting. It's an interesting question in general. Let's say someone asks you a question. Your sheet is that it's usher, but there are Mekalim. So number one, so it's interesting that he sent over. He didn't want to tell him. He could have said, well, I know you can rely on it to answer. He didn't say that. He said, go over and ask it. Because Rabbi Black, in one of his contemporary halachas from, in one of, I think, his introductions, it might have been the fourth one, where he brings down that, he quotes a Gemara where the rabbi sent him to someone else. He was quoting one of the shitas that you can't, if you hold it thus, you can't just say, well, this guy says it's mutter, it's okay. Again, that's a point of contention, but could have been Rosh Hashanah maybe said it anyway. I'm hearing a story, but it just reminded me that question, are you allowed to give over to someone else? Why don't you just tell? But we see also that was Rosh Zalman's sheet in general. He felt very strongly about his own shitas, but he wasn't my way or the highway. He had no problem with you relying, don't ask me. And of course, what usually happens is the people who throw the psak down your throat, no one wants to come close to them. For Shlomo Zalman, who said the person, probably, in Yerushalayim was probably the most asked question all the time in terms of that type of attitude that you usually get. Those are the people who usually come back and ask the shaila, the people who don't have the, they feel strongly about their shita, but then, if you ask someone else, they don't, it doesn't bother them.
Do you know the statement? Do you know the story of Selevan and about adoption with the Rabbi and the Birchas Kohanim?
No, remind me. I don't know.
It's just Selevan says that when he was the rabbi in Brooklyn.
He used to be a rabbi in Brooklyn. Okay.
So he was close with the Rav. So he asked the Rav about adoption.
What
the
about
Rav told that an adopted mother, if you adopt a child at birth, then the laws of Yichud don't apply.
That's the Rav sheet.
The Rav sheet is that motherhood is dependent, the laws of Yichud is dependent on the relationship. Other people hold, the Birchas Kohanim and the Chazon Ish hold that it's not true. That if you're not the mother, you have to misyafah. Practically means you can adopt. So someone says, so what happens if the Rabbi just want to adopt? So the Rav says, what do you think? The Rabbi tells him, go ask Rabbi Selevan what to do. And if he sends him over to me, he'd have to do the child.
Yeah, I think I remember that now, yeah. Right, so again, it's interesting that as opposed to, the Rabbi is saying that, there's room to be makel, he sends you over to the actual, or whoever, right. So that's what they point out, to the Magen Avraham, point out that it's even, that someone who knocks over a pregnant woman, aborts the fetus, does not puzzle you for the duchening. In fact, it's a Shush Yaakov that points out that a Safek Kohen, that he writes even a Safek Kohen, I'm not sure if he means all Kohanim today are Kohanim Chazaka, but whatever he means by a Safek Kohen, is even a Safek Kohen could go up and do duchening, which is a big chiddush, because if you're not a Kohen, there's an Isser Aseh for you, as we know, as we Gemara in Suvis, there's an Isser for a Zar to go up and do duchening, and depending in the right circumstance. So he points out that, so the Achronim point out, if the Shush Yaakov is a Safek Kohen who might be over an Isser Aseh, he can do duchening. Certainly, someone who kills a fetus, so it's only a suffix. Number one, the fetus might not have been viable anyway. It's only a suffix ritzicha. So how much more so that that person could do? It seems to be, though, killing itself is a shiloh by abortion. It seems to be the consensus is that that one is permitted. A Kohen who is involved in abortion can.
The reason I asked that thing about abortion before is there's a whole issue of what exactly is the issue by abortion.
Exactly. No, so so that gets into that's the famous either remotion that sits in terms of that ties into it, because some say abortions remotion. Because it's interesting, how they label the tshuvas, like remotion, right? Isser Ritzicha. He obviously is telling you, well, the Tzitz Eliezer has. Obviously, if you hold as an Isser Ritzicha, you're very limited on what the Heterim are. Mm-hmm. It has to be Pikuach Nefesh. Whether it's Pikuach Nefesh physical, psychological, but you have to come up with a Pikuach Nefesh scenario. How liberal you want to be with that, then we can discuss. But the Tzitz Eliezer seems to be, it's an Isser Mazik, it's an Isser Nezikin, and okay, so then there's much more room to work with in terms of right, so according to that, it's not even a shiloh, you do a abortion, like, why would...
Isser Ritzicha, like the Isser Ritzicha, of a non-Jew.
Right.
It's
There's no-
it's a subcategory without the punishment.
Right, everyone agrees there's no capital punishment.
Right.
That's the thing, you have cases, you have the fetus case, you have a Gavra Ketela, you have a Treifa, they're all scenarios where there's an Isser Ritzicha, but you're not going to necessarily get capital punishment, they don't necessarily go hand in hand. You can violate an Isser Ritzicha without being liable, Misa.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's, that was the truth I saw by abortion. This
Yeah,
truth,
liable or it's not carried out?
You're
talking about a guy. It's
but guy or a fetus.
You had no key of Misa to begin with. When you talk about a guy who what do you call him? A Ketela, who had
But
Nigmaradin or whatever. So my understanding was you're actually chayav Misa, but for technical reasons we can't give it to you.
Yeah, it's an Isser Ritzicha, but there's no.
I mean, you might be worse off. You might be chusar kapara because you really should have been killed.
Oh yeah, you're saying you can't. Well, maybe
there's a big difference between those two when you're talking about. If we're talking about
abortion, doesn't seem to be like.
If we're talking about an abortion, which is it? Is it a lot? Is it a
right?
Tzicha, but you're not going to get killed for it, or is it a love?
It's a love of receiver. The question by abortion
which is it?
Is a shogeg by abortion. The only issue by abortion is by a case of shogeg, and then you have to pay the father the knas. You don't go to the Ari Mikvah. So that seems to play. It's a qualitative difference.
But you're just going down because something that could be worse. At least golas is a form of an onish or whatever. Right. Here you're saying right, and certain things could be worse, right? I'm just talking about technically from a legal point of view. I'm not saying it's a good thing. Maybe you're better off getting capital. Right, might be right.
It would also make a difference in how makel you can be.
No, but
if it's ritzicha, it really is ritzicha. Okay, so you're not going to get killed for it for that.
I think
pretty serious issue.
No, because most learned is the Isser Ritzicha is no different than the Isser Ritzicha when you are liable to capital punishment. It's just that there's a for technical reason.
Okay, so
that seems to be that's the way
Because you were talking about like a guy, that's a law.
Yeah, but the fact is, I think that you're making a distinction whether really he should be over capital punishment. We can't give it to him because we can't give him any hashra, because who knows for sure this guy will live and who knows this that. So that really seems to imply that really it's a lack of information that leads to the Isser, to the non-capital punishment. But my understanding is not like that. My understanding is since we learned the Isser of abortion, the shogeg is only punishable by knas to the father, right? And you pay the knas to the father, and you're not even an issue in terms of really you should go to Ari Mikvah, but you can't go to Mikvah because you don't know if the fetus would be viable. It seems to imply that once the Torah says you pay knas, it defines it as a separate thing. Killing the fetus, the shogeg, is punishable by giving a knas. So it seems to take it out of the Ari Mikvah definition, and therefore the enforcement try to deal with. So what is the Yisra? Because then you have a whole way machlokas. Some people hold in Zikin, but there are people who hold in Ritzicha. But they hold that it's Yisra Ritzicha that leads to a different type of punishment. Same way you have by the Zikin, that if you hit your parent, you include Misa. You hit someone else, you are mama. But the fact is, you still have one statement of ashara. So therefore, by Ritzicha, the tirtzach of Ritzicha applies. So some people say that that's the ashara for abortion, but the Isra is not punishable by this; it's punishable by something else. That's why I understand that's the issue by Ben Noach as well. If the Isra is Ritzicha, but you don't get punished with. There's no it's only B'nai Shemayim. The punishment is only B'nai Shemayim, not B'nai Adam. So I don't think it's as you're saying it, that it's because of our inability to give a shah, our inability to define it.
Okay.
So one other shy I want to discuss, at least we'll start it, the famous discussion about whether we apply the principle of Shemea Ka'oneh by Birchas Kohanim. We all Shomei Kohanim we're familiar with. We do it all the time, whether we think about it or not. Let's say one person makes kiddush, or the Baal Bat makes Havdalah. So when Yotze, so there's a whole discussion in terms of the Macholkas Beis Halevi versus Nitziv and Chazanit. So let's say somebody asked you, did you hear Havdalah tonight? So some of it you heard Havdalah. I don't mean the person who actually made it, but or what's pshat in Shomei Kohanim? Is the pshat is that I'm fulfilling my mitzvahs through the Shmiya, and I'm doing it myself. I did the mitzvah, I heard it. Or no, the Chiddush of Shomei Kohanim is no, I'm actually getting credit, I'm mistyachas to this guy, and therefore I'm considered, it's like I'm doing it, I actually got this, heard Havdalah, I actually said Havdalah. So there's a whole discussion by Birchas Kohanim. The question comes up because there's the Gemara, where they talk about the concept of you need B'kol Ram. There's a whole discussion, what does B'kol Ram mean? Kol Ram means you scream out loud. Actually, the Gemara talks about it means Kol Beinani. It just means a nice voice, actually, a pleasant voice. Even though there is a Sifri, which seems to say that Kol Kohol, the whole Kal has to hear it, implying that the whole Kal has to hear it. It seems to be speaking pretty loud. Some are going to make a distinction. It has to be as loud, or as depending on how big the shul is, in terms of that. So there's interesting. So there was an interesting minhag actually in Italy, in Trieste. Is that a place in Italy? Trieste. That they say that Kohanim. Let's say you had one Kohen had a great voice, and he wanted to do it himself. He didn't want any choir. He said the other Kohanim can't sing. You guys keep quiet. You can come up with me, and you can lift up your hands and do everything else. But just let me, maybe, whether, starting Shomei Kohanim on the bracha, I would assume is probably okay. Whatever they did in Trieste, I'm not sure. But the issue, I have some good tunes for you. Just let me take care of it. So that seems to be the minhag in Italy, in this place where one Kohen used to do it. In fact, the Binyan Shlomo, who some say he's the one who argues on the Beis Halevi, that he right here, it's a raya, he has a raya from Mishnah Megillah, that one person does that one Kohen does it, because the Gemara talks about Hamaftir, the Mishnah talks about Hamaftir bin Navi. So again, so today we have whoever gets Maftir, that's the most chashuv in some places, but really, Hamaftir bin Navi, oh, we feel bad for you, Navi, you didn't get the Aliyah, you're not reading from the Torah, we have to give you some prizes to make you happy. So it says, maybe you let him daven, you pari Shema, and if he's a Kohen, you let him duchen. So the Binyan Shlomo asks, like, what do you mean if you're Kohen, let him duchen? All Kohanim are duchening. So he's saying no, so maybe, as long as you can talk, so we're okay. So he says, the fact that we have, the fact that they used to pick one Kohen, so then you got that's what the Binyan Shlomo's raya, that one Kohen he says that's the practice. Others say it's not a raya. Then if you look at the whole Mishnah, doesn't really fit in with the contrast, but others point out that I think it's a Ragachavar it's on a different case where, let's say, as we mentioned, let's say you have 10 Kohanim. The whole shul is 10 Kohanim, that's it. So what's the halacha? The halacha is everyone gets up. And what happens if you have 12 or 13? All for Birchas Kohanim. All the Kohanim get up and do it. Who are they talking to? The Am Shebesados. But let's say you have 12 or 13, so only 2 or 3. The two, you either 2 or 3, you don't get up to the thing. That's what we're talking about. In a case where, it's also difficult to do, that's what the Mishnah is talking about. But in a case where you have a shul of all Kohanim, and you have 12 or 13, so you're one of those people, who get to pick. But if
you're 11.
No, 11 to, I think, probably 1 then. It's just a matter of anything, over 10. So they point out that, but interesting, we see so this din of B'kol Ram, because the Rambam seems to write, you could violate Baal Tosef with Birchas Kohanim, even B'lachash. I didn't know lachash. I thought you need. The question is that we pass can you need kol ram, whatever that means. The Shulchan Aruch writes that a kohen has to do duchening but kol ram. So the kash is. So the Rambam writes, but even b'lachash you could violate Bal Tosef. That's the whole discussion whether kol ram is a din lechatchila, a din b'diavad. In terms of that, but they point out that the issue is because why is Birchas Kohanim a shayla? Because since you need B'Kol Ram, the question is, could you fulfill Shomei HaKohen through Kol Ram? In other words, the Beis HaLevi's sheet is that you yotzi through Shmiya. The Chiddush of Shomei HaKohen is you yotzi. I'm doing yotzi through hearing. You can't hear out loud. In other words, it's not. It's a different. Therefore, he says there's no Shomei HaKohen by Birchas Kohanim. The Netziv, the Chazon Ish, others, the Binyan Shlomo, they point out no, it's not working. You're Yotei, I'm Misyachas to me. The same way it works by any time you need a kosher Kiddush Friday night. It's like I'm having the kos. It's, everything that I'm doing, it's Misyachas to you. So therefore, I don't need it. So of course you can do Shomei HaKohen. I am doing Kol Ram. So the Netziv anyway says it doesn't work for another reason, because there's a Yerushalmi that says in 3 cases we don't say Shomei HaKohen. Like Kriya Shema.
Sphira?
Sphira is a separate child, as far as Mochem, but they, like Kriya Shema maybe Bikurim, but they say Tefillah. So the Netziv says since Birchas Kohanim is part of Tefillah, there's another problem but fundamentally it's because it's what they say. Because when
the whole idea of Chazar to Shas.
The what?
Chazar to Shas in Nishma.
Well, but depending on like the Rav has the sheet, of Tefillah, Hat Tzibur, but you're saying that. But who says I have to hear? You mean Chazar to Shas ain't no Baki, or for who?
Right, but it's
yeah.
But already if you say he's a Baki, then there's already other arguments.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a. Right, no, but that's what Tosfos over the to point out. It's only for the Eino Baki.
Right, so you say the Shami is Baki.
Yeah, no, so either way, so it's interesting if you know, because when the Beis HaLevi writes it, he writes Chacham Echad. He heard Chacham Echad said that you could do Shomei HaKohen, and I disagree. And it's interesting if you look at the Netziv in Megillah where he writes it, he also writes Chacham Echad. So if you know the politics of the 1850s in Volozhin, then it probably makes sense that some want to claim it's the Binyan Shlomo who he was talking about. I've seen in different Sfarim, I've seen them say it's the Rav Shlomo Vilna was the one, but others I heard say no, they think it's an Netziv, and they point out both of them interesting use the Chacham Echo line, because if you knew the politics, even though the Netziv and Rav Chaim, they had totally different drachim in learning, they got along fine, but there's always the Hasidim, the Talmidim. I think even the Netziv even tried to sit in the Beis HaLevi's class one time. But politics could be a lot stronger sometimes. So the famous Din Torah where they finally paskin that the Netziv gets it, and the Netziv said every yeshiva needs a good shomer. I'm sure there wasn't that much money in the Volozhin yeshiva. But every good needs someone to be a shomer. He gave the keys to Rav Chaim, and showing and of course,
the Beis HaLevi.
Yeah, the Beis HaLevi. I mean, yeah, and they got and they got the last laugh because the Beis HaLevi's son Rav Chaim married the granddaughter of the Netziv. So, but that's what they point out that issue of so the Beis HaLevi has a famous shtickle on Shomei HaKohen by Birchas Kohanim. He claims it's a no-go. And some Achronim, I think, I've seen in the Shomei HaKohen Sfarim, they say that whether it's true or not, I can't confirm, but what they quote is, if the Beis HaLevi would have known about that minig in Italy, in Trieste, he would have backed down from, if he would have known that people are doing it, he would have backed down. Kind of like, that's what I once heard actually it was a Mushish, but what happened to be, it was in NYU, Rabbi Brandspiegel. I don't know if you remember Brandspiegel, and either way, so I guess he was speaking when maybe he was giving a chumash here, I don't remember, he was in the Beis HaMedrash, I think, and parenthetically, his Taba was talking about the anivis of the Gedolim, so one of his points was he said that he quoted this as an example. The Beis HaLevi, if he would have known, he would have backed down. Or the one that comes to my mind is they say, with the Dvar Avram with the Baal Amor by Sfiras HaOmer about why don't we count 2 days misafik. So the Baal Amor gives his answer, the Dvar Avram has a different answer, and they write to him, and now that it's the Baal Amor, I'm going to back down, even though there's a famous Ma'aser with the Rav, met the Dvar, he spent the summer with him, and he actually, that famous shtick of the Dvar Avram, the Rav, he had a strong kasha on it, and the Dvar Avram was matkim, it's not right. I forget, we can discuss that when we get to Sphere, but so that was his point in terms, whether that's true or not, but that's the famous shtick of the Beis HaLevi. We could continue on it, but the whole sugya of Shemei Kohanim, but it's the famous shiloh by Birchas Kohanim. Do you say Shemei Kohanim? The Beis HaLevi says no, and the other Achronim seem to say yes. And the Tziv says no for another reason. Apparently, it's a minhag in Italy. The minhag today seems to be that everyone gets up and and does it together. Whether that means that not Shemei Kohanim because that's just the minhag, yeah.
So is it on both the Kahal and the Kohanim, this question, or is it only
for Shemei Kohanim?
Yeah.
You mean like if one said to have one?
What's this question on? I mean,
this is right on the Kohen himself.
Right, but does it apply to the Kahal?
In which way?
I don't know. What's the issue here? One Kohen says, I don't want to bother getting up. I don't want to go up. I'll just be Yosef from.
No, but even though in the cases we're talking about that he's going up, he's just not doing. We're talking about where the Kohen goes. He can't just sit in the back.
Okay, so he can't.
We're talking about the cases the Kohen goes up. They put.
But what's he doing? I'm lost on. What is he answering to? Mamela the Kahal.
No, he's answering the fact that the din of whether. In other words, let's say I haven't seen anyone discuss. Because
What's he answering? Who's he?
He's not answering to anyone.
No,
he's just.
What's the hypothetical Shiloh? The Shiloh is
he's hearing the other point saying Recha Shem Yishmerecha. Right,
he's up there. He has his hands up, and he's just not.
He's just not saying it.
Let's say his throat's hurting. He doesn't want to talk today.
Yeah, he's hearing the other people.
So just ask. It doesn't say Amen, right? That's what your question.
Yeah,
Normally the Amen is what.
When you make a bracha, I have to say Amen. Shomeya, right?
But right, in this case, it wouldn't be. He's saying Shemay. He's like making the bracha with the guys. It's not.
But Shemay Amen's not ma'afir. It's Shemay Kohanim. We say Amen, but if the person hears Kiddush and doesn't say Amen, he's still Yosef. It's not ma'afir.
In fact, it's the whole shita where Amen could be a separate halacha.
Right.
I'm saying. Yeah, but I'm saying the Beis HaLevi he's giving a shtickle, but he's just pointing out 10 Kohanim go up. And could aid, either in one silent 9, they go up there, they do everything except they don't say it. Let's assume to forget about the bracha, for the bracha should be for sure, but the actual Yivra, can they just stand there quietly and not say anything, and they will fulfill the mitzvah of Amor Lahem. That's what he's addressing. That's what he's addressing, yeah.